3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Today is finally the day. This is Lockdown Defense with Coach Mike, and we are breaking down two-time All-Defensive player Marcus Smart and how he's become one of the most respected defenders in the NBA.
Oh man, what a defensive play. Tremendous defense. Wow.
The first thing we like to look at is the defensive stance, and Marcus Smart varies from a slight forward lean to more of a classic defensive stance. But what sticks out most when breaking down his film is how much he varies his defensive cushion, from a protective sag to an airtight pressure. This versatility shows a great knowledge for scouting his opponents and a great understanding of different defensive techniques. And speaking of defensive technique, the Lockdown book is finally available, jam-packed with techniques, analysis, and ways to coach, train, or become an elite defender. The first book to ever break down individual defensive technique in such depth and detail. If you love this channel, you'll love this book. Check it out now at lockdownhoops.com. It's time to usher in the defensive revolution. Now, let's get back to the breakdown. To be as versatile as Marcus Smart with varying his pressure, you need two things. Number one is hustle, which is obviously the case with Marcus Smart. But if you followed this channel, you know defense is about more than just hustle, and Smart is as versatile with his defensive footwork as any player I've seen. The first footwork is a touch slide, where the defender slides while keeping a gap between his own feet. This keeps the defender square to the attacker and on balance at any moment for a change of direction, similar to one of my favorite defensive drills, the Beverly Slides. But what's unique about Smart is he also uses a two-touch slide, which goes against the classic coaching adage of never bringing your feet together on defense. But by doing so, this allows you to cover a much larger distance with an explosive slide, a technique we saw a lot used by Matisse Thybulle and broke it down more in depth in that video. But with Smart, we don't stop at just two techniques. He's also superb at a crossover step. In this example, you can see him go from a single touch slide right into a crossover step, crossing his outside foot over his body to push off back into a defensive stance. This time, we can see him use it to intercept Giannis's path to the basket. But if we watch that again, we'll see another key concept Smart believes in: recovering to the outside shoulder of an attacker, forcing them to change their attack or be stopped. This concept is a great mental cue to help you cut off an explosive player. In fact, sometimes it will even put you right in position of the ball. But besides steals, if it's an opponent who isn't comfortable with counter moves under pressure, it will severely disorient them. And if you use it against a driver, you'll be in perfect position to use a swipe steal. A technique usually attributed to Iguodala, but paired with Smart's desire to not stop here in his recovery, but instead to get to the outside shoulder, the swipe steal opens up many opportunities to come away with the ball, usually using a crossover step to make up ground and explode into the swipe steal. A very logical tactic, since most offensive players will gather the ball on their outside hip. Of course, this is also a great technique for Smart because he employs a sagging defense against some of the most explosive players in the league to force them into jump shots, so that if they do force a drive, he can stay between the basket and still use a swipe steal to come up with it. One thing unique to Smart is that he'll use this technique on the side of an offensive player, swiping across their body to go for the steal. This is something I must offer a lot of caution to because the ref is going to see you swiping across the offensive player's body. And if you're like Marcus Smart, although you might take some risks and be physical, you still want the refs on your side. And Marcus Smart is great at getting the whistle in his favor. Just watch the 2 defensive plays to end this game. The first starts with a shoving match. He's able to stay attached on the first push-off because his left hand is holding Harden's right. Now that he has the ref's attention, he's going to hook his right arm under Harden's. This is going to allow him to really sell the contact and lift Harden's elbow near his head. And watch the crowd go crazy. Fast forward to the next defensive possession, you can see the Celtics are up, and Smart is definitely in Harden's head. The ref needs to separate those two, and Smart keeps his hands high. And now he's all but solidified, the whistle being on his side. And Smart is excellent at selling contact, using exaggerated arm flails to sell the contact and get the ref's attention. And you might hate on some of these tactics, but in today's game, with the rules so heavily favoring offensive movement, it's a lot better to be selling contact than doling it out if you want to be a lockdown defender. But it's a balance between the two that makes him such a great post defender as well, being willing not only to battle and be physical, but also sell the contact when needed. I mean, just watch Smart on Kawhi here in the post. Popping back, giving space, and then suffocating that pivot foot, using a wide base to win the battle of foot position and an angled lean to get leverage to fight back. Just in that one possession, there are several great post defensive techniques used. And even if you want to try and score on him in the post, you first need to get the ball, and that's no easy task. Smart does a great job of fronting the post, sitting on the post player's thigh and knee, driving them back under the basket. And if you do secure any good position, he'll use an outside baseline jump to try and intercept the post feed. Similar to the technique Scottie Pippen used to intercept post entries, but Smart does it on the baseline side. Similarly, avoiding much contact, allowing him to be slippery, jumping to the outside and then up the line, intercepting the post entry. Which means you'll have a hard time finding an easy way to score against a player as versatile and smart as Marcus Smart. And if he's not using one of the techniques we've already covered, you'll surely enjoy seeing his wide steals, poking it behind the player and chasing it down, the tremendous activity and disruption his hands can cause, when he appears out of nowhere to take a charge, and how he's not afraid of anything, whether it's contact or challenging players at the rim. This is why Marcus Smart is a 2-time all-defensive player, and his discipline and ability to do all the little things is why he's one of the most respected defenders in the NBA, and why he'll surely be one of the most memorable defenders of our generation. As always, I'm Coach Mike with Lockdown Defense. Keep up the hard work.